Today we're diving into a recap of Civil War. America is torn apart by internal conflict. Veteran war photographer Lee Smith and her partner Joel document the chaos in New York before embarking on a perilous journey to Washington, D.C. to interview the president before his fall. Joined by the aging journalist, Sammy, and rookie photographer Jessie, they traverse a devastated landscape filled with executions and war crimes. Along the way, Lee confronts the moral cost of witnessing destruction through her lens. Their journey ends amid a brutal battle in D.C., capturing the collapse of a nation and the haunting power of truth in war. Heads up, this breakdown contains major spoilers. If you haven't seen the movie yet, now's your chance. Otherwise, let's jump right into the story of Civil War. A civil war has consumed the United States in the not-too-distant future. A federal government that is ruled by a president who is in his third term is facing challenges from separatist groups. It is generally anticipated that the Western Forces, WF, headed to Texas and California will soon approach Washington, D.C., despite the president's claims that triumph is coming. Veteran combat photographer Lee Smith and his journalistic colleague, Joel, meet with their mentor, Sammy, to discuss their plan to interview the president, who is secluded after surviving a suicide explosion in New York City. Even though Sammy tried to talk them out of going to the Capitol, he ended up joining them on their journey to the front lines in Charlottesville, Virginia. The next morning, Lee discovers that Joel has granted permission for Jessie Cullen, a young aspiring photographer whom Lee met during the bombing, to accompany them. The crew stops at a petrol station guarded by armed men after leaving the city. When Jessie investigates a local car wash, she witnesses the guys beating two people they accuse of stealing. As one of the security detail pursues Jessie, Lee snaps a picture of the assailant posing with his victims, diverting attention away from the problem. Later on, Jessie gets on her own high horse about how afraid she was to snap pictures. After spending the night close to the action, the crew witnesses a successful attack on a facility held by loyalists the next day by separatist fighters. Jessie takes pictures of the secessionists beheading captives, while Lee starts to coach her since she sees promise in her as a combat photographer. The party spends the night in a refugee camp and then travels through a little town whose inhabitants try to ignore the conflict as much as possible, all while being watched by guards. Subsequently, they find themselves entangled in a gunfight among the ruins of a Christmas market. Close by, snipers make fun of Joel for asking whose side they're on, and instead boil it down to murdering their enemies. As Jessie becomes numb to violence, her courage and photographic abilities flourish. Lee affirmatively answers Jessie's question about whether she would photograph her being murdered. The foursome runs with Tony and Bohai, two familiar international reporters, while on the road. Bohai takes Jessie for a spin in his automobile before Tony and Jessie swap cars. When the others close down on the group, they discover that the two are being held hostage by unidentified militiamen in uniform as they bury people in a mass grave. Although the other three try to negotiate their release with the militia commander, Bohai and Tony are executed for not being American. Sammy remains behind to watch over them. After crashing the group's vehicle into militiamen, Sammy rescues the others, but he takes a fatal bullet while trying to escape. The three survivors reach the WF base in Charlottesville, where they discover that most of the loyalists have already surrendered, leaving Washington, D.C. protected only by extremists from the military and the Secret Service. This experience has left them traumatized. While Joel rants and raves about Sammy's senseless death, Lee attempts to reassure Jessie by claiming that Sammy would have preferred to die while working. After taking a picture of Sammy's body, Lee realizes she can't remember taking it, so she deletes it. During their attack on Washington, D.C., the trio becomes embedded with the WF. Jessie puts herself in harm's way many times trying to take pictures, and Lee suffers from post-traumatic stress disorder as a result of the violence. The president's limousine and its passengers, including the First Lady, are slain when the White House reinforced perimeter is breached by WF forces. The convoy tries to depart, but is eliminated by WF units. Recognizing it as a distraction, the group decides to accompany WF troops inside instead. One Secret Service agent's fruitless endeavor to negotiate the president's surrender and safe departure leads to his own demise as they make their way through the mostly deserted facility, replete with corpses of staff who are believed to have committed suicide. Because of this, the WF and the few Secret Service personnel who are still protecting the president end up fighting. While snapping pictures, Jessie puts herself in harm's way. Nevertheless, Lee pulls her to safety and is himself slain by the Secret Service. In the meantime, Jessie records Lee's death on film. As Jessie impersonally makes her way into the Oval Office, she witnesses the president being dragged from under his desk by troops who are getting ready to kill him. The president responds, "Don't let them kill me." Joel briefly halts them to get a quotation from the president. While Jessie snaps pictures of WF troops standing with the president's body, Joel, content, stops holding up the soldiers. This was a recap of Civil War. Thank you so much for watching the video. If you enjoyed the recap, please don't forget to hit like and subscribe to not miss more videos like this.